The sound of my own laughter haunts me now. That cruel, wine-soaked cackle that used to echo through our kitchen in Boise as I mocked the one person who deserved it least. These days, I eat microwave dinners standing over the sink in my efficiency apartment in Reno, washing each fork right away because I only have one set of silverware. The irony isn't lost on me. The woman who ridiculed her husband for doing dishes now can't afford enough plates to leave them dirty. 3 months have passed since the night Daniel finally had enough. 3 months since he stood in the doorway of our dining room, listening to me and my friends tear him apart for the crime of being helpful. 3 months since he quietly served divorce papers that stripped away everything I'd taken for granted, including the man I'd spent 7 years treating like hired help instead of a partner. The video my former friend Brittany posted that night has over 2 million views now. "Watch this entitled wife get served instant karma," the caption reads. I've memorized every frame. Me in my designer dress, drunk on expensive wine, doing my cruelest impression of Daniel while my equally toxic friends shrieked with laughter. Then the camera swinging to catch Daniel in the doorway, the devastation on his face before it hardened into something I'd never seen before, complete indifference. The comments are a masterclass in public humiliation. This is why I'm single. Poor guy just wanted to make his wife happy. Notice how she's drinking wine he probably paid for while mocking him for being a provider. But the one that haunts me most is from a fellow doctor. I know this man. He's saved more lives than she's had hot dinners. Last week he performed a 12-hour surgery to remove a tumor from a toddler's brain. But sure, mock him for washing dishes. 23,000 likes on that comment. 23,000 people who see what I refused to see, that I'd married a hero and treated him like hired help. But I should start from when I still had a husband who loved me despite myself, when I still had friends who enabled my worst qualities, when I still believed that marriage meant having someone to look down on. Daniel and I met 9 years ago at a medical conference in Atlanta. I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, all polished presentation and strategic charm. He was a pediatric surgeon, brilliant but unassuming, the kind of man who wore his intelligence quietly. I pursued him relentlessly, drawn to his stability, and if I'm honest, his earning potential. "You could have anyone," he said on our third date, genuinely puzzled by my interest. "Why me?" "Because you're going places," I replied, thinking I was being romantic. Looking back, I see how that answer should have warned us both. I didn't say because you're kind or because you make me laugh. I said because you're going places, like he was an investment opportunity instead of a person. We married 2 years later in a wedding that cost more than most people's cars. I insisted on the country club, the designer dress, the 7-tiered cake. Daniel wanted something smaller, maybe destination with just family. But I knew how to work him even then, how to make my wants seem like needs, how to frame his practicality as cheapness. "Don't you want to give me my dream wedding?" I'd asked, and of course he did. Daniel always wanted to give me everything, even when everything was never enough. The red flags started on our honeymoon. We'd gone to Bali, a trip Daniel had researched meticulously, booking cooking classes because he knew I'd mentioned wanting to learn. But when we arrived at the first class, I balked. "This is your thing, not mine," I said, scrolling through my phone while he stood there holding 2 aprons. "I'll just watch." "But you said you wanted to learn Indonesian cooking." I said it sounded interesting. That doesn't mean I actually wanted to do it. There's a difference. He did the class alone while I sat at the bar, texting photos to my friends with captions like, "Husband at cooking class while I'm drinking in paradise." Winning. The pattern was set early. Daniel showing love through actions, me dismissing those actions as unmanly or embarrassing. When he surprised me with breakfast in bed for our 1-month anniversary, I complained about crumbs in the sheets. When he learned to make my grandmother's lasagna from scratch, I told my sister he was obsessed with being Betty Crocker. "That's actually sweet," she'd said, confused by my disdain. It's weird. What kind of man spends 3 hours making pasta from scratch? The kind who loves you? She suggested, but I was already scrolling past her message. The first few years were good, or at least I didn't notice they weren't. Daniel worked long hours at the hospital, saving children's lives while I spent my days at the gym, the salon, the country club. I'd quit my job after the wedding. Why work when your husband made $400,000 a year? I filled my time with tennis lessons and charity committees where we planned galas but never actually helped anyone. The dishes became our thing gradually. Daniel, exhausted from surgery, would still come home and cook for us. Real meals, not takeout, because he believed in sitting down together at the end of the day. After dinner, he'd clear the table and start washing up, humming some jazz standard while I scrolled through Instagram. I can help, I'd offer half-heartedly. No, relax. You worked hard today, too. What work? Looking back, I see his kindness for what it was. Him trying to maintain connection, to create normalcy in a marriage that was becoming increasingly hollow. But at the time, I saw it as weakness. My husband, the surgeon, reduced to a kitchen servant. My friends agreed. There was the time his hospital held a charity gala. Daniel had bought a new tux, gotten a haircut, looked handsome in that understated way of his. I spent 3 hours getting ready, hair and makeup professionally done. When we arrived, his colleagues' wives pulled me aside. You're so lucky, Dr. Patel's wife whispered. Daniel talks about you constantly, shows everyone your picture. He's absolutely devoted. Instead of feeling loved, I felt embarrassed. He needs to get a life, I laughed. It's a little pathetic how obsessed he is. The woman's face changed, her warmth cooling. I think it's lovely to see a man so in love with his wife. But I'd already moved on, scanning the room for more interesting conversation, missing the way Daniel's colleagues had started to notice how I treated him. How I'd roll my eyes when he tried to include me in conversations. How I'd interrupt his stories to correct irrelevant details. How I'd make little jokes at his expense. Daniel still hasn't figured out how to use the smart TV, I announced to a group of his surgeon friends. I have to set up Netflix for him like he's 80 years old. They laughed politely, but one of them, Dr. Rodriguez, I think, said quietly, he can perform robotic surgery, but can't work Netflix? That's funny. His tone suggested it wasn't funny at all. Girl, you have him trained, my friend Sasha would laugh during our wine afternoons. Mine won't even put his plate in the sink. It's pathetic, honestly, I'd reply, forgetting that Sasha's husband had cheated twice while mine was faithfully scrubbing pans. Sometimes I watch him in his little apron and wonder what happened to the man I married. The apron! God, the apron! It was a Father's Day gift from his nurses. Navy blue with Dr. McDreamy embroidered on it, a joke from the Grey's Anatomy-obsessed pediatric ward. Daniel wore it proudly when he cooked, said it reminded him of the kids he treated. I told everyone it made him look like a housewife. I posted a photo once, Daniel at the stove, apron on, stirring something with one hand while reading a medical journal with the other. The caption, "When your husband takes playing house too seriously." 67 likes, dozens of laughing emojis, comments from my friends about how whipped he was. Daniel saw it later that night, his shoulders slumping just a little as his face fell while reading the comments. I thought you liked when I cooked, he said quietly. I do. It's just a joke, babe. Lighten up. But he started wearing the apron less, started ordering takeout more, started pulling away in tiny increments I was too self-absorbed to notice. The truth was, nothing had happened to him. Daniel was the same steady, loving, generous person he'd always been. I was the one who'd changed, or maybe just revealed who I'd always been underneath the performance of courtship. The night everything ended started like many others. My book club was meeting at our house, though we hadn't read a book in years, just drank wine and gossiped. Daniel had worked a 14-hour shift, lost a patient, a 6-year-old with cancer. He'd told me about it when he got home, tears in his eyes, needing comfort. "Her name was Emma," he said, sitting heavily on our bed. 6 years old, same age as my niece. She loved unicorns and thought we were going to make her better. I promised her parents. "That's horrible," I'd said, not looking up from my phone. "Can you pick up some more wine for tonight? We're almost out of the good stuff." He'd stopped mid-sentence, staring at me like I'd slapped him. "Did you hear what I just said?" "Yes, very sad about the girl, but I have 8 people coming over in 2 hours and nothing to serve them." "A child died, Pamela. A child whose life I couldn't save, and you're worried about wine? Well, I can't bring her back, can I?" Life goes on. The look he gave me then should have been my final warning. It wasn't anger or disappointment. It was recognition. Like he was seeing me clearly for the very first time, and the illusion had finally shattered. He'd driven to the store without complaint, bought 3 bottles of the $60 Pinot Grigio I preferred, then cooked appetizers for my friends. Bacon-wrapped dates, spinach artichoke dip, bruschetta, all from scratch, all perfectly presented on the serving platters we'd received as wedding gifts, all while grieving a child he couldn't save. "Daniel, you're a saint," my friend Megan said as he refilled our glasses. "Seriously, where do I find one like you?" "They don't make them anymore," I said, the wine making me cruel. "This one's practically vintage. Complete with the dishwashing feature." Everyone laughed. Daniel smiled tightly and returned to the kitchen. By the time he'd finished cleaning up after our appetizers and started on dinner, salmon with asparagus and wild rice pilaf, we were on our 2nd bottle. The drunker I got, the meaner I became. It was like something poisonous in me needed to leak out, and Daniel was always the safest target. "You should see him after sex," I announced, apropos of nothing. "He gets up to shower immediately. Can't stand to be dirty for 5 minutes. It's like sleeping with a germaphobe." "At least you're getting some," Brittany said. "Mine hasn't touched me in months." "Quality over quantity," I replied. "Though with Daniel, it's more like adequacy over frequency." The words hung in the air like poison. Even drunk, I knew I'd crossed a line. Sex was the one thing we'd promised never to discuss with others, the one sacred space in our increasingly fractured marriage. But the wine and the audience made me cruel in ways I'm still learning to regret. "TMI!" Sasha shrieked, but she was leaning forward, hungry for more details. "Let's just say the only thing he's passionate about is sterilization. The OR gets more action than our bedroom." I drained my glass, ignoring the voice in my head that sounded suspiciously like my mother asking what kind of woman talks about her husband this way. The laughter was sharp, brittle. Looking back, I realized my friends didn't actually like me. They liked having someone around who made them feel better about their own marriages, their own choices. I was the mean girl who said what they were thinking but wouldn't dare voice. Daniel served dinner with the same quiet efficiency he brought to everything. Perfect plating, even garnish, water glasses filled without being asked. He ate quickly in the kitchen. There wasn't room at the table with all of us. Then started on the dishes while we continued drinking. "Listen to him in there," I said, tilting my head toward the kitchen. "Like a little housewife. Sometimes I swear I married a 1950s sitcom character." "He's washing dishes after cooking you dinner," Megan pointed out, a rare moment of defense. "That's actually pretty great." "Oh, please. Watch this." I stood up, swaying slightly, and affected Daniel's posture, slightly hunched from bending over sinks and surgical tables. "Honey, did you want me to use the special soap on your wine glasses?" "I know how you like them to sparkle." My imitation was cruel, transforming his consideration into simpering weakness. But I was just getting started. The wine and audience fueled my performance. I grabbed a dish towel, flipping it over my shoulder the way Daniel did, and continued in a high-pitched voice that sounded nothing like his deep, gentle tone. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry about helping. I just love doing dishes. It's the highlight of my day. Almost as exciting as when I get to scrub the toilets." I pretended to scrub frantically, adding a little skip that Daniel had never done in his life. Maybe after this I can reorganize your closet by color. Won't that be fun? Everyone exploded with laughter. Brittany pulled out her phone, still recording as I continued my performance. Oh no, sweetie, you just relax with your friends. I'll just be here in the kitchen, living my best life with my rubber gloves and my organic dish detergent. Maybe later I'll organize the spice rack for fun. I was so wrapped up in my performance, feeding off the laughter and attention, that I didn't notice the kitchen sounds had stopped. Didn't see Daniel standing in the doorway, dish towel in hand, watching his wife turn his love into a punchline. Don't mind me, he said quietly. Just need to grab something. The laughter died instantly. My friends looked everywhere but at him. I tried to brazen it out. We were just joking around, babe. You know that. I know. He walked past us to the hall closet, pulled out his jacket. I'm going out. Don't wait up. Where are you going? Daniel? Daniel! But he was gone. The front door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded final. Awkward, Brittany muttered, finally putting her phone down. The party dissolved quickly after that. My friends made excuses, gathered their things, left me alone in a house that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. I texted Daniel. Apologies, justifications, demands that he come home. He didn't respond. I woke up on the couch the next morning, still in my dress, makeup smeared, wine glasses scattered around me like evidence at a crime scene. Daniel was in the kitchen, dressed for work, making coffee. You're home, I said, trying for casual. I was worried. Were you? He didn't look at me. I find that hard to believe, considering you think I'm pathetic. I was drunk. The girls were over, and you know how we get. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. He finally turned, and I saw he'd been crying. Daniel, who'd stayed composed through 30-hour shifts and dying children, had been crying over my cruelty. Do you have any idea what it's like? Coming home exhausted, cooking for you, cleaning for you, trying to make you happy, only to hear you mocking me for it. I said I was sorry. No, you didn't. You said you were drunk. That's not an apology, Pam. That's an excuse. Fine. I'm sorry. There, happy? He laughed, short and bitter. 7 years. 7 years I've loved you, supported you, tried to be a good husband. And this is what you think of me? That I'm pathetic for taking care of our home? I don't think you're pathetic. You literally did an impression of me being pathetic. Your friends filmed it. Should I pull it up? Watch my wife tell a room full of people that I'm weak for washing dishes? I couldn't answer. He was right, and we both knew it. I'm done, he said simply. I'll be staying at a hotel until I can find an apartment. I'll have movers come for my things. You can have the house until the divorce is finalized. Divorce? Daniel, come on, this is an overreaction to one stupid comment. One? Pamela, you've been tearing me down for years. To your friends, your family, on social media. I've been pretending not to notice, telling myself it's just your sense of humor, that deep down you love me. But last night, listening to you turn me into a joke for doing the dishes after losing a patient, I realized you don't love me. You love what I provide. There's a difference. He was so calm. No yelling, no drama. Just a man who'd reached his limit and knew it. We can try counseling, I offered desperately. Work through this. What would be the point? To teach you not to humiliate your husband? That's not something you should need therapy to understand. Daniel, I called again, my voice cracking. He paused at the door, turned back with eyes so tired they looked ancient. You know what the sick part is? That little girl today, the one who died? Her parents held each other and cried and thanked me for trying. They thanked me for failing to save their daughter. And I come home to my wife performing comedy routines about what a loser I am for doing the dishes. I didn't know. Because you didn't ask. You never ask. I tried to tell you when I got home, but you needed wine for your party. Always something more important than listening to your pathetic husband talk about his pathetic day-saving pathetic lives. The sarcasm was so unlike him it felt like being slapped. This was Daniel pushed beyond his breaking point, and I'd been the one pushing. "Daniel, please?" "Enjoy your party, Pamela. I'm sure you'll have plenty more material after I leave." The husband who was so pathetic he couldn't even take a joke. He left for work. When I got home from the gym that afternoon, because even in crisis I had priorities, his closet was empty. Just like that, 7 years of marriage reduced to vacant hangers and the lingering scent of his cologne. The divorce was swift and brutal. Turns out when you've been a stay-at-home wife with no job and a history of publicly humiliating your breadwinner spouse, judges aren't sympathetic. The video Brittany posted, which she claimed was just funny, became evidence of emotional abuse. My lavish spending habits, carefully documented, showed I'd contributed nothing while living like royalty on Daniel's income. Daniel's lawyer was thorough. Bank statements showing my $4,000 monthly spending on clothes, hair, nails. The country club membership I'd insisted on but never used for anything but drinking. The 3 luxury vacations I'd taken with my friends while Daniel stayed home working. Page after page of evidence that I'd treated our marriage like an ATM with housekeeping services. But the worst part was Daniel's testimony. He didn't rage or accuse, he just quietly told the truth. "She'd wait until we had company to mock me," he said, voice steady but eyes wet. It became a performance. The more people laughed, the crueler she got. I started making excuses not to have people over. Started staying late at the hospital to avoid the humiliation. "And the household duties?" his lawyer prompted. I didn't mind doing them. I grew up in a family where everyone contributed. My father cooked, my mother fixed cars, everyone cleaned. But Pamela acted like my help was somehow emasculating, like a real man wouldn't know how to use a vacuum. I wanted to object, to explain, to somehow make it sound less awful. But what could I say? That I'd been raised to believe men who did housework were weak? That my toxic friends had reinforced this belief? That I'd been too insecure to appreciate a partner who actually partnered? I got alimony, but only for 2 years. "Sufficient time to obtain employment and become self-supporting," the judge declared. The house had to be sold to divide assets. My car, the Mercedes Daniel bought me for our anniversary, was his before marriage, so I couldn't keep it. "This is insane," I told my lawyer. "He makes $400,000 a year." "And you spent 7 years mocking him for it," she replied. "Consider yourself lucky you're getting anything." My friends vanished with my money. Turns out when you can't host wine afternoons or pay for group spa days, you're not that interesting. Sasha sent one text. "Sorry about the divorce. Mike says we probably shouldn't hang out anymore." You understand. I understood. I was the cautionary tale now, the woman who'd had everything and thrown it away for cheap laughs. I moved to Reno for the lower cost of living and to escape the humiliation. Got a job as a receptionist at a medical office. Ironic, considering how I'd looked down on working women during my marriage. $32 an hour to answer phones and schedule appointments. I make in a month what I used to spend on handbags. My apartment is 500 square feet. The dishwasher is broken, so I wash everything by hand in a sink stained with rust. Sometimes, standing there with pruned fingers and aching back, I think about Daniel in his apron, humming jazz while he cleaned up after cooking me gourmet meals. I called it pathetic. Now I understand it was love. He's dating someone new, a pediatric nurse from his hospital. I stalked her Facebook before she made it private. She posted a photo of him cooking dinner captioned, "How did I get so lucky?" The comments were full of heart emojis and women saying they needed a man like that. No one called him pathetic. No one mocked his kindness. In the photo, he's smiling in a way I haven't seen in years. Genuine, unguarded, the way he used to look at me before I trained it out of him with mockery and disdain. He's making what looks like pasta from scratch, something he tried to teach me once, but I said cooking was beneath me. My mother calls sometimes. trying to be supportive but unable to hide her disappointment. "He was such a good man," she says, every conversation. "I never understood why you were so mean to him." "I wasn't mean," I protest, but even I don't believe it anymore. "Pamela, I watched you roll your eyes when he pulled out your chair. I heard you call him Nurse Nancy for taking care of you when you had the flu. You were mean." The truth hurts more because it's coming from someone who loves me, someone who watched me destroy my marriage, one cruel comment at a time, and said nothing because married couples work things out themselves. I've tried dating apps, but my options are limited. Divorced men with baggage, guys looking for hookups, no one remotely close to what I had. One date asked why I got divorced. "We grew apart," I said. That's what everyone says. What really happened? I couldn't tell him the truth. That I'd mocked my surgeon husband for doing housework until he finally had enough. That I'd chosen mean girl bonding over marriage. That I'd had a partner who cooked and cleaned and loved me, and I'd thrown it away because dishes were somehow beneath my dignity. Last week, I saw a couple at the grocery store. The husband was loading groceries while his wife scrolled on her phone. When he asked if she wanted anything special for dinner, she snapped at him to figure it out himself. The look on his face, patient, resigned, tired, was so familiar it made me sick. I wanted to grab her, shake her, tell her what I'd learned too late. That a man who cooks for you is showing love. That washing dishes isn't weakness but partnership. That mockery kills marriages faster than infidelity. But I just watched them leave, her still on her phone, him pushing the cart with slumped shoulders. Another Daniel in the making. Another Pamela walking toward an efficiency apartment and a sink full of her own lonely dishes. The video is still online. Every few months it goes viral again. Entitled wife gets what she deserves. Husband goals, know your worth. Why you shouldn't marry a gold digger. 2 million views of the worst moment of my life. Of the moment I revealed exactly who I was. In the comments, people dissect my cruelty. They praise Daniel for leaving. They share their own stories of partners who took them for granted. I've become a cautionary tale, a meme, a reminder of what happens when you mock the person who loves you. The worst part? They're all right. Every comment calling me ungrateful, selfish, abusive, they're right. I had a partner who worked all day saving lives, then came home and took care of me, and I repaid him with public humiliation. Now I eat alone, clean alone, sleep alone. The dishes pile up because there's no one to judge but myself. The wine glasses, cheap ones from the dollar store, gather dust because drinking alone just makes me sadder. The designer clothes hang unworn because there's nowhere to wear them and no one to impress. Sometimes I dream about that night. In the dream, I don't do the impression. I tell my friends how lucky I am. I go help Daniel with the dishes and we talk about his day, the patient he lost, the lives he's trying to save. In the dream, I'm the wife he deserved. But dreams don't change reality. Reality is this apartment, this job, this life I created by being too proud to appreciate what I had. Reality is Daniel happy with someone who values him, while I learned too late that love looks like a man in an apron, humming jazz while he does the dishes. I wash my single plate, my single fork, my single glass. The water is scalding, the soap harsh on my hands. I think about Daniel's touch, how he'd massage my hands when I complained about a paper cut, like every wound mattered. How he'd kiss each finger and call me brave. I wasn't brave. I was cruel and small and so insecure that I had to tear down the best thing in my life to feel powerful. Now I have all the power over my single-serve meals and my empty evenings and my one-person dishes. And the punchline, I now realize, is that I have to do my own damn dishes.